She laughed at the human's warning, until her world started to burn. The reckless diplomat Commander Zara Phoenix had survived 3 interstellar wars, a black hole proximity incident, and 2 assassination attempts. She had not, however, prepared for the particular torture of babysitting the most insufferable passenger in the known galaxy. "This rust bucket moves like a dying nebula slug," Nyx Solarian declared, her melodious voice dripping with disdain as she swept into the command deck. Her violet skin seemed to shimmer under the ship's harsh lighting, and her crystalline hair caught the glow like captured starlight. The flowing silks she wore, worth more than Zara's annual salary, rustled with each dramatic gesture. Zara's knuckles whitened on the navigation controls. "The transport Meridian's edge has safely crossed 47 star systems," she replied through gritted teeth. "She'll get you to Xerion Prime in one piece, assuming we don't die of old age first." Nyx dropped into the co-pilot's chair with theatrical flair, crossing her long legs. Her amber eyes sparkled with mischief as she leaned closer to Zara's station. "My family's private yacht could make this journey in half the time." "Then perhaps you should have taken your family's yacht," Zara muttered, checking the stellar weather reports. What she saw made her stomach clench. "Damn." "Language, Commander," Nyx chided with mock horror. "What has your primitive sensors detected?" "Now?" Zara ignored the barb. Her attention locked on the cascade of warnings flooding her display. "Solar storm activity in the Xerion system. Class 7 flares predicted for the next 18 hours. "So?" Nyx examined her perfectly manicured nails, each one embedded with tiny gems that sparkled like miniature galaxies. "Your human ships have shields, don't they? Or is that technology still beyond your species?" Heat flashed through Zara's chest. "Listen, Princess, Trade Minister's daughter," Nyx corrected airily. "Though I appreciate the promotion." "Listen, Trade Minister's daughter," Zara said with exaggerated patience. "Class 7 solar flares can punch through military-grade shielding. This is a civilian transport. We need to wait it out at the relay station." Nyx's expression shifted, her amber eyes narrowing. "Absolutely not. I have a meeting with the Xerion Mining Consortium in 6 hours. Do you know how long I've been arranging this deal? My father is counting on me to—" She stopped abruptly, her jaw tightening. For a moment, Zara glimpsed something beneath the aristocratic mask. Pressure, maybe even desperation. But the vulnerability vanished as quickly as it had appeared. "I don't care if the entire star goes supernova," Nyx continued, her voice regaining its imperious edge. "We're not stopping at some backwater station because a human pilot is afraid of a little cosmic weather." "A little cosmic weather?" Zara stood, her full height matching Nyx's even with the alien woman's elegant frame. "Stellar radiation can cook you from the inside out. Your people might be immune to most toxins, but this isn't about biology. It's about physics." Nyx waved a dismissive hand, her crystalline hair catching the light as she tossed her head. "Solarians have weathered cosmic storms for millennia. Our constitution is far superior to your fragile human physiology." She fixed Zara with a condescending stare. "I'm sure whatever primitive fears drive your species' caution don't apply to more evolved beings." Zara felt her military composure cracking. "More evolved? Lady, I've seen what solar radiation does to evolved beings. Evolution doesn't make you immune to having your DNA scrambled like breakfast eggs." "How charmingly crude," Nyx replied, settling back in her chair with satisfaction. "Though I suppose I shouldn't expect poetic metaphors from a soldier." The navigation system chimed with an urgent alert. Zara glanced at the readings and cursed. Under her breath, the storm front was accelerating, already reaching the outer markers of the Xerion system. "We're changing course," she announced, her fingers dancing over the controls. "Kappa Station is 3 hours out. We'll wait there until—" "No." Nyx's voice carried an edge of steel that surprised Zara. "I said we're going to Xerion Prime. And I said we're not." Nyx rose gracefully, moving to stand behind Zara's chair. Her presence was overwhelming, the subtle fragrance of exotic flowers mixed with something uniquely alien that made Zara's pulse quicken despite her irritation. "Commander Phoenix," Nyx said, her voice dropping to a silky whisper. Perhaps you've forgotten who commissioned this transport. My father's trade agreements fund half the shipping routes in this sector. One word from me, and your little ferry service becomes very unemployed." Zara's hand stilled on the controls. She turned slowly to face Nyx, noting how the alien woman's confidence never wavered even when making threats. "Are you blackmailing me?" "I'm simply clarifying our respective positions," Nyx replied with a sweet smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You work for me, Commander, and I'm telling you to proceed to Zarian Prime." For a long moment they stared at each other. Zara could feel the weight of her responsibilities, her crew's livelihoods, the shipping contracts, the delicate balance of interspecies commerce that kept the peace. But she also felt the weight of her training, her oath to protect passengers, even from their own stupidity. "Fine," she said finally. "But when those flares hit and the shields fail, don't come crying to me." "How delightfully dramatic," Nyx laughed, a sound like crystal chimes in a gentle breeze. "I assure you, Commander, Solarians do not cry to humans." Zara programmed the course correction with sharp, angry movements. "We'll see about that." The next 3 hours passed in tense silence. Zara monitored the storm readings while Nyx occupied herself with what appeared to be diplomatic correspondence, her slender fingers dancing over a holographic interface that projected alien script in shifting patterns of light. Despite her anger, Zara found herself stealing glances at her passenger. There was something mesmerizing about the way Nyx moved, a fluid grace that spoke of genetic engineering perfected over generations. Her violet skin seemed to contain its own light source, and when she concentrated, tiny bioluminescent patterns flickered along her temples. "Something fascinating about my physiology, Commander?" Nyx asked without looking up from her work. Heat crept up Zara's neck, just wondering how someone supposedly so advanced could be so monumentally stupid. "Charming." Nyx finally looked up, her amber eyes amused. "For what it's worth, I find human directness rather refreshing. Most beings spend so much time with diplomatic niceties that they forget how to speak honestly. And yet you're a diplomat's daughter." "Indeed. Perhaps that's why I appreciate honesty when I encounter it." Nyx's expression grew thoughtful. "Tell me, Commander, what drove you to become a transport pilot? Surely someone with your military record could find more prestigious work." Zara was surprised by the genuine curiosity in Nyx's voice. "Maybe I like the quiet. Space is peaceful when you're not getting shot at. And yet you chose to escort passengers. Hardly quiet work. Most passengers don't threaten to destroy my livelihood when I try to keep them alive." Nyx had the grace to look slightly abashed. "I may have been overzealous in my persuasion." That's one word for it. Before Nyx could respond, alarms began, shrieking throughout the ship. Zara's console exploded with warnings as massive energy readings spiked across all sensors. "What's happening?" Nyx demanded, her previous confidence evaporating. "Solar flare," Zara replied grimly, her hands flying over the controls. "A big one. All hands, brace for radiation surge." The ship shuddered as the stellar storm slammed into them. Through the viewports, space itself seemed to burn with sheets of golden fire. The Meridian's edge groaned under the assault, her shields flickering like dying candles. "Shields at 60%, Zara called out. 50, 40. "You said the shields would hold." Nyx gripped her chair, her amber eyes wide with fear. "I said military shields might hold. This is a cargo hauler." The ship bucked violently as another wave hit. Sparks erupted from control panels and the lights flickered ominously. "Shields failing," Zara shouted over the din. "Emergency power to life support." "Do something," Nyx screamed. "I'm trying." Zara fought the controls as the ship tumbled through the cosmic maelstrom. "But your meeting schedule doesn't override the laws of physics." A final, devastating pulse swept through the ship. The shields collapsed entirely, and for 30 seconds, raw stellar radiation poured through the hull. Emergency systems screamed warnings about dangerous exposure levels. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the storm passed. The ship drifted in, sudden, eerie calm. Zara ran diagnostics with shaking hands, Hull integrity holding, life support stable, radiation levels dropping. She turned to check on Nix and froze. The Solarian woman sat rigid in her chair, her violet skin flickering with strange patterns of light. Her crystalline hair seemed to pulse with inner fire, and her amber eyes had taken on an unsettling glow. Nix? Zara's voice was barely a whisper. I feel strange, Nix said, her melodious voice now carrying an odd harmonic undertone. Hot, like my blood is singing. Zara's hands flew to the medical sensors. The readings made her stomach drop. Nix's biological signatures were spiking across the board. Cellular activity, neural patterns, hormonal levels all climbing beyond normal parameters. The radiation, Zara breathed. It's triggered something in your physiology. Nix tried to stand and swayed dangerously. Zara caught her, noting how the alien woman's skin burned against her palms. What's happening to me? Nix asked. And for the first time, since boarding the ship, her voice held no arrogance, only fear. Zara helped her to the medical bay, her mind racing. She'd heard rumors about Solarian biology, about dormant responses that could be triggered by certain types of radiation. If the stories were true... Commander, Nix whispered as Zara settled her onto the medical bed. I think I owe you an apology. Save your strength, Zara replied, pulling up medical databases. We need to get you to a proper facility. Zirion Prime has a medical station, but it's still 4 hours out. 4 hours? Nix's laugh was shaky. Will I make it that long? Zara looked at the readings again. Nix's condition was stabilizing, but the biological changes were still cascading through her system. Whatever the radiation had awakened in her Solarian genetics was still unfolding. You'll make it, Zara said firmly. I promise. As she began treatment protocols, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed between them in those 30 seconds of stellar fire. The arrogant diplomat's daughter was gone, replaced by someone vulnerable and frightened, and despite everything, Zara found herself caring what happened to this infuriating, beautiful alien who had laughed at her warnings until the stars themselves had proven her wrong. The price of pride. 4 hours later, the emergency docking bay of Zirion mining station received them with harsh lights and the acrid smell of industrial recyclers. Zara guided the limping Meridian's edge into the berth, her hands steady despite the exhaustion weighing on her shoulders. Behind her, Nix lay unconscious on the medical bed, her violet skin now pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to respond to her elevated heartbeat. Station control. This is Transport Meridian's Edge requesting immediate medical assistance, Zara transmitted. I have a Solarian passenger suffering from acute radiation exposure. The response came in a gravelly voice tinged with irritation. Copy that, Edge. Medical team dispatching. Fair warning, our xenobiological specialist is particular about interruptions. Zara didn't care if the medic was a 3-headed Arcturian with anger issues. She watched Nix's readings spike again, noting how the alien woman's breathing had become shallow and rapid. Whatever the radiation had triggered in her system was accelerating. Heavy footsteps echoed through the docking bay as a figure in medical scrubs approached. Dr. Kavak. Thresh was built like a walking mountain, 8 feet of muscle and scales with 4 arms and reptilian features that marked him as Draknari. His yellow eyes assessed the situation with clinical detachment as he boarded the ship. Solarian female, approximately 25 standard years. He rumbled in accented standard, his voice like grinding stone. Stellar radiation exposure. When? 4 hours ago, Zara replied, stepping aside as Thresh's multiple hands moved over Nix's still form with surprising gentleness. Class 7 solar flare. Direct exposure for 30 seconds. Thresh's scaled head lifted, his predatory gaze fixing on Zara. 30 seconds of Class 7 radiation should have killed her. She's Solarian. I thought they were more resistant. Resistant to toxins, yes. Radiation is different. Thresh's lower arms worked a medical scanner while his upper hands checked Nix's pulse points. This is not radiation poisoning, this is something else entirely. As if responding to his voice, Nyx stirred. Her amber eyes fluttered open, but they now held flecks of silver that hadn't been there before. When she tried to speak, her voice carried that same harmonic undertone that had appeared during the storm. "Where are we?" she asked, her gaze finding Zara's face. "Zarion Station, you're safe," Zara assured her, though she wasn't entirely certain that was true. Thresh's scanner beeped with an urgent tone. His yellow eyes widened as he read the display. "Fascinating. Commander, I need to move her to my laboratory immediately." "You're what?" Zara stepped protectively closer to Nyx. "She needs medical treatment, not experimentation." "She needs both," Thresh replied grimly. "The radiation has triggered a dormant genetic sequence in her DNA. Solarian reproductive catalyst. Very rare, very dangerous if not properly managed." Nyx tried to sit up, her movements unsteady. "Reproductive catalyst? What does that mean?" Thresh helped her to her feet, noting how she swayed against him. "It means, young female, that your body believes it has encountered ideal breeding conditions. The radiation mimicked certain bioelectrical signatures that your species evolved to recognize as opportunity." "That's ridiculous," Nyx protested, though her voice lacked its usual conviction. "I feel fine, just warm." "You feel warm because your metabolism has increased by 40%, Thresh stated matter-of-factly. "Your pheromone production has tripled, your sensory acuity has doubled, and your emotional inhibitions are dissolving. In approximately 6 hours, you will enter a full reproductive frenzy that will last for 72 hours. The color drained from Nyx's violet features. "Can you stop it?" "Perhaps, but we need to move quickly." Thresh gathered his equipment with efficient movements. "And you," he pointed one scaled finger at Zara, "will need to assist." "Me?" Zara's voice cracked slightly. "I'm not a medic." "No, but you are the focal point of her emerging fixation," Thresh observed with clinical detachment. "Solarian reproductive catalysts create powerful psychological bonds with the first compatible individual encountered during the initial phase. Your presence calms her biological responses." As if to prove his point, Nyx reached out and grasped Zara's hand. The moment their skin touched, the wild fluctuations on Thresh's scanner smoothed into more stable patterns. "I don't understand what's happening to me," Nyx whispered, her earlier arrogance completely absent. "I feel like I'm losing control of my own mind." Zara squeezed her hand gently. "We'll figure it out. Dr. Thresh knows what he's doing." "Actually," Thresh rumbled as he led them through the station's corridors, "this is only the third case I've encountered in 30 years of practice. The previous 2 subjects did not survive the process." "Encouraging," Zara muttered. Thresh's laboratory was a chaos of alien medical equipment and specimen containers. He directed Nyx to a padded examination table while setting up an array of monitoring devices. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin were becoming more pronounced, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. "The treatment requires a delicate balance," Thresh explained as he worked. "Too much intervention and we risk stopping her heart. Too little, and the biological cascade will overwhelm her nervous system." He paused, his reptilian features thoughtful. "There is also the matter of the psychological component." "What psychological component?" Zara asked, though she suspected she already knew. "The reproductive catalyst creates intense emotional and physical attractions," Thresh said bluntly. "Primitive survival mechanism. The affected individual becomes completely fixated on their chosen partner. Fighting this attraction causes severe psychological trauma." Nyx's eyes found Zara's across the room. Even in her altered state, embarrassment colored her features. "I'm sorry, Commander. I know this must be uncomfortable for you." "Don't apologize for something that isn't your fault," Zara replied firmly. "We'll get through this." Thresh began administering a series of neural inhibitors, his movements precise despite the urgency. "The irony is palpable," he observed. "A species that prides itself on emotional control reduced to its most basic biological imperatives. "Doctor," Zara said sharply, "maybe focus less on irony and more on treatment." "Of course." Thresh's scanner chimed again. "Interesting. Her responses are stabilizing faster than expected. Usually, the separation anxiety becomes unbearable within minutes of distance from the focal partner." "Separation anxiety." Nix's voice carried a note of panic. "Standard response," Thresh assured her. "The catalyst creates a powerful need for physical proximity to the chosen individual. Most subjects become violently agitated when separated." He looked between Nix and Zara with interest. "Yet you remain relatively calm. Perhaps the initial bonding was stronger than usual." Heat crept up Zara's neck. "There was no bonding. I was just doing my job." Thresh's yellow eyes gleamed with scientific curiosity. "Nevertheless, the treatment will require continuous proximity for the next 72 hours. The neural inhibitors will reduce the intensity of the biological responses, but complete separation could trigger systemic shock." 72 hours? Zara's voice rose an octave. "Unless you prefer to watch her die," Thresh replied with brutal honesty. Nix struggled to sit up on the examination table, her crystalline hair catching the laboratory lights. "Commander Phoenix, I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking," Zara interrupted. "I'm deciding, and I'm staying." The gratitude in Nix's amber eyes was overwhelming. For a moment, the proud diplomat's daughter was completely gone, replaced by someone vulnerable and frightened who needed help. "Thank you," Nix whispered. Thresh prepared another injection, his expression thoughtful. "I should warn you both. The inhibitors will reduce the biological compulsions, but they cannot eliminate the psychological aspects entirely. The emotions triggered by the catalyst, while artificially induced, often reveal underlying compatible personality traits." "Meaning?" Zara asked, though part of her didn't want to know. "Meaning the attraction may not be entirely artificial," Thresh said with characteristic bluntness. "The catalyst amplifies existing compatibility. It does not create emotions from nothing." Silence settled over the laboratory as the implications sank in. Zara found herself remembering moments from their journey, the way Nix's laugh had affected her, the graceful movement that had caught her attention despite her irritation, the glimpse of vulnerability beneath the aristocratic mask. "I need some air," Zara announced, heading for the door. "Commander, wait." Nix's voice carried a note of desperation that stopped Zara in her tracks. "I'm not leaving the station," Zara assured her. "Just getting some space to think." She stepped into the corridor, her heart pounding. Behind her, she could hear Thresh's rumbling voice explaining treatment protocols to Nix, but the words blurred together. In the space of 6 hours, everything had changed. The arrogant passenger who had dismissed her warnings was now dependent on her presence for survival. The attraction she'd been fighting to ignore was now medically relevant, and somewhere in the chaos of stellar radiation and alien biology, she'd started caring about what happened to Nix Solarian far more than professional duty required. When she returned to the laboratory 20 minutes later, she found Nix curled on the examination table, her bioluminescent patterns dim and slow. She looked up as Zara entered, and the relief in her expression was unmistakable. "Better?" Zara asked. "Much," Nix admitted. "I'm sorry about all of this. I know it's not what you signed up for when you agreed to transport me." "No," Zara agreed, settling into a chair beside the table. "But then again, you didn't sign up to have your biology hijacked by cosmic radiation either." A small smile curved Nix's lips. "I suppose we're both victims of circumstance." "Speaking of which," Zara said carefully, "what you said earlier about your meeting with the mining consortium, was it really that important?" Nix's expression grew distant. "My father has 3 sons, all of them successful diplomats, brilliant negotiators, perfect representatives of Solarian interests." She paused, her fingers tracing patterns on the examination table's surface. "I'm the youngest, the only daughter," He gave me this assignment to prove I could be more than just a decorative addition to some political marriage. And if you missed the meeting? Then I would have proven his point about my limitations. Nyx met Zara's gaze. I've spent my entire life trying to show that I'm more than just a pretty face with the right genetic markers. Sometimes that makes me overly determined. Overly stubborn, Zara corrected gently. That too. Nyx's smile was rueful. Though I suspect you understand something about proving yourself in a male-dominated field. Zara nodded slowly. Military service isn't exactly welcoming to women, especially human women in interspecies operations. Then we have more in common than I initially assumed, Nyx observed. Thresh chose that moment to return with a tray of medications. The next phase of treatment requires rest, he announced. The neural inhibitors will need time to establish stable patterns. I suggest you both try to sleep. Both of us? Zara questioned. Proximity, Thresh reminded her. Separation triggers anxiety responses that counteract the treatment. There are quarters adjacent to the laboratory, basic but functional. As they settled into the cramped quarters, little more than 2 beds separated by a narrow aisle, Zara found herself hyper-aware of Nyx's presence. The alien woman's breathing was steady now, the crisis seemingly past, but the strange intimacy of their situation was impossible to ignore. Commander? Nyx's voice came soft in the darkness. Zara, she corrected. Given the circumstances, I think we can drop the formalities. Zara, Nyx repeated, and somehow her name sounded different in that melodious voice. Thank you for saving my life, for staying with me, for not letting my pride kill us both. Your pride didn't cause the solar storm, Zara replied. No, but it caused us to be in its path when it hit. Nyx was quiet for a moment. I've never had to depend on someone else's expertise before. It's humbling. Everyone needs help sometimes. Not in my family, Nyx said quietly. Solarians are taught that dependence is weakness, that showing vulnerability is failure. But you've shown me nothing but competence and compassion, even when I was behaving terribly. Zara turned on her side to face Nyx's bed in the dim light. You weren't terrible, difficult maybe, stubborn certainly, but not terrible. You're being kind. I'm being honest. Zara paused. For what it's worth, I understand the pressure to prove yourself. It makes people do things they wouldn't normally do. They talked quietly for another hour, sharing stories of their respective careers, their struggles with family expectations, their dreams beyond the roles they'd been assigned. As the station's artificial night cycle deepened, Zara found herself seeing Nyx not as an annoying passenger, or even as a patient, but as someone remarkably similar to herself, someone fighting to be seen as more than others expected. When Nyx finally drifted off to sleep, her bioluminescent pattern settling into a gentle, steady glow, Zara lay awake wondering what would happen when the 72 hours ended. Would they return to their respective lives, this strange intimacy forgotten? Or had the cosmic radiation changed more than just Nyx's biology? Outside the laboratory windows, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to the small drama playing out in the medical bay of a mining station. But for the first time since taking on transport duty, Zara found herself hoping that some journeys didn't have to end.